G'day Defenders, this is Desi here. Welcome back to another BTLO Replay. Today we're going to be going through one of the Frostbyte event labs, which is Winter Stew. This is one that I made, but before we jump into that, be sure to follow us on X, LinkedIn, or join the Discord server to keep in touch with the awesome community. Links, as always, are in the description box below, but for now, let's jump in and read the scenario. Festivia had many ideas for Winter Wonderland, one of which includes mass manufacturing of stew to make sure everyone is fed over this sometimes harsh period of the year. With all the recent issues with Glacier happening, she wants to make sure that her chemical plant where the stew is getting made is okay. Can you help threat hunt and see if everything is okay? All the questions related to the network capture we got off one of the monitoring workstations in the plant's DMZ. So we know that the PCAP will be from the perspective they've probably used Wireshark or TCP dump to take the capture from the workstation. So that helps us in terms of reading the PCAP. So let's jump into it. This looks like it's going to be it. There's no investigation folder. So I think that's, maybe I didn't select it properly. That looks like it's opening. So I'll jump back once this is open. All right, so we've got this open. We've got my normal nice setup. How many questions? We've got 10 questions here to get through. So let's have a quick read through the questions. The host machine in the capture is the highest amount of traffic. What is the host endpoint's IP? We know this because it's taken from the endpoint. So it's kind of like it's sitting on the network right in front of that endpoint. The engineers on site tell us that this machine connects into the DMZ, but it also has internet access. That means the endpoint must have two network blank. Yep. There are two of those, and that must mean there is another IP. If I were the attacker, I'd probably start with one. If I were an attacker, I'd probably start with one of the first steps in the cyber kill chain. What network reconnaissance tool is used, and what is a string in the info column where the name first appears? This can help us get to another IP on the host machine. Look at what happened before the Nmap scan. Oh, this helps us. So it's probably, this tool is Nmap, so we can probably look for that. It looks like there was another type of scan run. We just need the generic name and not the tool. What is the IP of the endpoint in the DMZ with our hosts? Based on the scan from Q3, what two ports are open? What protocol is running on the higher port? We know that the plan has some operation software running on that endpoint. What is the login URL and what is the credentials to access? I know this is bad. Looks like Glacier might have gone into the network. I'm going to cut the wire between OT and IT. Can you find the packet number which corresponds to the redirect after the credentials are entered? Okay, so pretty straightforward. It kind of leads us through. This is an easy lab. So first things first is we want to look for the highest amount of traffic. So let's go into statistics, and then I think it's endpoints. And we've got IPv4, and then let's look for just packets for the highest amount. So that's probably our first IP. So we've got the highest amount of traffic there. So we've got 192.168.1.120. Sweet. The engineers on site tell us that the machine connects into the DMZ, but also has internet access. That means the endpoint must have two network. This is probably adapters or interfaces. So if we go out of full screen and we go endpoint into networks, has two network. Yeah, so interfaces or adapters is kind of like what we're looking at here. So multiple network interfaces. This is just from my understanding of networking and working in incident response before. So let's try interfaces first. Okay, there we go. So it was interfaces. But you could have Googled what I Googled, right? And like two has two network, and then you could have gone question mark. And let's see if we could find the question. We want the endpoint to have gateways. So this is a network interface. Yeah, so a private endpoint is your network interface that uses private IP address from your virtual network. So may have taken you a little bit to get to this, or just have known from using VMs in the past or doing some networking as well. Just jump back into full screen. Two of those must have mean there's another IP. So we want the tool and then the string, and we kind of have a format for the string that we're looking for. So based on the following question, we know that nmap is probably there. We can do essentially a string search within. So each one of these, so like all of this information here in frame 1 is a frame. So like there's like a hierarchy of, I guess, circles within Wireshark that it captures information, and a frame is the largest circle for a single packet. So we can go frame contains and then go nmap and see if we get any hits. So we do get some hits. And what does it want? It wants, so the cyber kill chain as well. I guess we should all know this, but cyber kill chain was created by Lockheed Martin, is a really nice conceptual way of thinking about attacks and how attackers go about it. So step 1 is reconnaissance. So that's actually broken down into 2 sections, both passive and active. So nmap scans would be an active reconnaissance method, whereas passive would be like doing OSINT on a company. So we're looking for the first string. So it kind of looks like this, right? Like post SDK HTTP. So let's go nmap post /SDK SDK HTTP /1.1. We got it there. This can then help us get the other IP of the host machine. So it looks like it's posting this to .5 and it's coming from .3. So it looks like the .3 is the attacker IP and this .5 address is the other host within either the other host or the other network interface. So if we go .5, so we got it there. Looking at what happened before the nmap scan, looks like there was another type of scan run. We just need the generic name and not the tool. So something scan with 3, and we're packet 2520. So we know that this is roughly the start of the nmap scan, if not the start. And so what we're looking for here, there's like a TCP scan. There's some ARP traffic. Could be an ARP scan. They're trying to find, so an ARP scan will help find IPs on the network. So we could go, I'm not sure whether TCP scan is a thing. I guess it is, but it's usually like TCP connect scan. If we go ARP scan, I mean, ARP scan is kind of like the tool. So my first guess would be TCP scan. And then my second guess would be an ARP scan. Because the TCP scan is likely linked to the nmap scan. So if we look for just ARP, yeah, so there's a lot of traffic here. Okay, I reckon it's an ARP scan because I reckon the TCP scan is part of the nmap one. what's the IP address at the endpoint in the DMZ with our host? So this is the attacker IP, which I think was this, but a .3. So we saw that from the mmap scan before. And then based on the scan from Q3, so that's the nmap scan, what 2 ports are open? Okay. So remember, we were looking at packet 2052, and we actually want IP 192.168.90.5, because that's our victim that is being scanned. That's the one we want to look at. So looks like .3 is scanning 8009. Because we're getting, so the reason that I'm saying that is what the mmap scan is doing is it's scanning kind of all the ports, and it's the TCP scan, so it's sending a SYN request, and if the port's not open, what gets replied is this right? Am I explaining this right? Yeah. Is the reset ACK flag. But if it's open, it tries to establish a handshake. So then you get a SYN ACK back from the endpoint. So we saw 8009 before. There was actually a SYN ACK. And then here as well, looks like 8080. So sweet. What protocol is running on the higher port? So I think that's this. We already saw that there was HTTP. I'm pretty sure it's the destination port. It's actually HTTP is running on it. So there's some kind of web server, and that's actually a good one. So port 8080, we can go use for. It usually is HTTP for web servers. So as like a different default port from 80, and then you've got 443 for HTTPS, and I forget what other ports are used for HTTPS. Yeah, 8443 as well. So it's kind of used as like a default port if you have like maybe like the admin portal for your web server is running on a different port. But we do know here that HTTP is being used for 8080, which is standard. Ports are actually not strictly controlled by any means. It's more like it's kind of like the code from Pirates of the Caribbean. It's like where parlay isn't strictly a law. It's more like guidelines. And that's kind of how I always think of ports, because the people who made up the internet are like, hey, this is all a good idea, but then we're not going to enforce it. So when someone doesn't do it correctly, it kind of messes people up, but it's also like potentially obfuscation. So like, for example, like you don't have to run SSH on port 22. You can actually run it on whatever port you want. It's just by standard, you generally run it on port 22 or something else that is commonly accepted. Because otherwise it's more like security through obscurity rather than you're actually securing your endpoint. It shouldn't actually matter if you run on standard ports if you have good security. But anyway, I digress. We have the protocol. So we know that the plan has some operation software running on that endpoint. What is the login URL and what are the credentials to access? So let's see if we can find it. So we need, I think it is this. Is it this one? Yeah, we need the HTTP. And actually, let's just look at HTTP traffic, because it should be in, oh, here we go. SCADA BR. So I reckon that's it. So if we go HTTP, and then we want the IP address. So 192.168.90.5. And then we need the 8080. And then SCADA BR. Okay. And then, whoop. I don't know what I did there. SCADA BR. So the credentials could be in here, but if I was a pen tester, what I would actually do is I'd go SCADA BR. So it is an actual software. And then let's look up to see if we can just Google default credentials. Both the default user ID and password are admin. Okay. So let's give this a try. And if not, if this isn't the answer, then we'll look through the PCAP. Admin. Okay. So it's not that. So what we're hoping for is that the credentials are exposed through through some kind of request on the server, and then yeah. So it could be in here, and so I reckon that the username is still admin, and maybe they've changed the password to something else. I mean, I could follow these streams. Oh, so this is the login page. So let's follow this. Let's follow the HTTP stream. So we have a session ID. So this is the actual page rendering after the login. Okay, so maybe what it wants is it wants this login.htm. Right, okay, and that's it. What is the login URL is what it wants. So if we had this server and we searched this and we didn't have a session ID saved in the browser, it would redirect us to the login HTML. And this question's asking us for the actual login URL rather than just like something that would redirect, I guess. So I know this is bad. Looks like Glacier might have gotten into the network. I'm going to cut the wire between OT and IT, but can you find the packet number which corresponds to the redirect after the credentials are entered? So I think that's this packet. So post 302 is the redirect. So 23260. Hooray, there we go. So that's a redirect into the views SHTM page. So nice, simple one. This would be cool. So I'm probably looking to do some more like ICS labs in the future, building off this. This is from controlthings.io, and they had some really cool like VirtualBox machines that were super easy to set up, but keen to do more in the future. But that's it for now. Hopefully you enjoyed the winter event. Went for another month again, similar to our Halloween one. We're always keen to develop more. But for now, thanks for watching, and be sure to like and subscribe to never miss a video on our YouTube channel. In the meantime, remember to join us on Discord and tune in every Friday at 6 p.m. UTC for BTLO Replay. Thanks, Defenders, and I'll catch you all next time.